Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Luka Dončić plays well again, but Slovenia is eliminated from Eurobasket. What's next for him? And when is LeBron going to retire? All that next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how, where you get your podcasts. This one's always going to be free and never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the channel, Andy, all of whom are excited that once again, Luka Dončić dominates in Eurobasket play, but probably at least somewhat relieved, many of them at least, that Luka Dončić has been eliminated from Eurobasket play. Slovenia loses to Germany, 99-91 is the final. Germany is, I would say, the prohibitive favorite now that France has been eliminated to win the thing. And so Luka, to say the least, Andy, did yeoman's work keeping Slovenia in both the game and the tournament more broadly. We'll get into some comments made by Brian Windhorst about the potential for a LeBron James retirement. But let's start, Andy, with Eurobasket. Another great game from Luka. Nothing to be ashamed of as they exit the tournament, even though Luka himself was not pleased with his own performance.
And also he was displeased with the referees, which lets you know we're back, baby. Luka is back, putting up numbers, pissed off at the refs. Let's effing go, people. 39 points for Luka on 11 of 25 shooting. It was really the three ball, which had started to tick up over the last couple games, but ultimately did in Luka's efficiency, 5 of 16 from behind the arc. I get the very strong impression. It was not a game I was able to see the entirety of, but there was a lot of, I need to put up every shot I possibly can to keep pace with this German team. You've also got 10 rebounds, 7 assists. Let me read you Luka's numbers over 7 Eurobasket games. He is averaging roughly, or averaged, I should say, because Slovenia is now out of the tournament, roughly 35 points a game, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and 14 trips to the line. And obviously, Luka is going to be disappointed that Slovenia couldn't go any further, and he would be the first to say, whether realistically or not, it is on me, my responsibility to carry my team through anything. But the reality is the type of work that he would need to do, the type of performance to bring Slovenia past a far more complete team in Germany, you would be talking about like a 50 to 60 point, very efficient, they lost. It was a relatively close game, but I feel like in order to control something like this, Luka would need to be putting up like 50 points on 25 shots, something insane that.
He did everything he could.
Exactly.
I think it's fair to say he did everything he could.
Yep.
I look, Slovenia, these are, in the grand scheme of things, excellent basketball players and all this, but this is one of the, the best tournaments in the world. And in terms of international play, in terms of, how you measure international play, Slovenia had Luka, one more guy who I think plays in those, like the sort of the top European, at that level of the top European leagues. And then that's it. And so, you compare that to a team like Germany or Serbia, who had already been eliminated, or some of these other squads. The Germans have multiple players with, who are current NBA players, other players who have been in the league, and then other guys beyond that who play in top European leagues. And so this is like taking your team in the NBA to the Western Conference Finals, where it's you and a lot of guys from the G League. It's like, it's not that these guys are bad ball players, because they're really good. It's just, at the compared to the competition. So it was a great way for Luka to finish. You mentioned averaging 3 steals. The guy was even nominated for the best defender of the tournament award, which is not something that you hear very often when people are talking about Luka, is, that kind of performance on that side of the ball. It's just like, it was an outstanding tournament in every way. The Slovenians overperformed to some degree. Making the final 8 is an enormous achievement for Slovenian basketball. Luka, you read the numbers, and nobody got hurt. I mean, all in all, this is as perfect a script as I think anybody really could have put together.
And it's a really good it's a good incentive as far as Luka to maintain the conditioning that he undertook this summer for the transformation into skinny Luka. These are also really good tune-up games for getting the basketball, back under him again after spending so much of that conditioning time not picking up a ball at all, which Luka said was killing him. But this was the plan with his team, and they said, we're going to be doing basically everything but basketball, working all the different muscles, changing diet, yada, yada, yada. But you still got to get that timing back, that comfort level back. And it feels like Luka has that back over the course of this tournament. He's got, about 2.5 weeks now to wind down, then ramp back up again, get a little bit of a break before training camp starts. And it feels like it's just long enough to get some degree of rest, but not long enough that you worry about him losing any conditioning, any fitness, routine, discipline, whatever. So, like you said, all in all, I know there were a lot of listeners and viewers who thought that we were focusing too much on the prospect of Luka getting hurt. And maybe that is true. But either way, it's good to see him get out of it in one piece. And it's really good to see him messaging continually just how excited he seems to be to start this season. I've talked about this before. There has been this summer a serious let's effing go vibe that is being projected to Luka that I imagine is going to be picked up by all of his teammates.
Well, I look at it this way, and I was maybe save this for a little bit later, but I feel like there is a swagger that a team has when you have one of those dudes. When you take the floor with that guy. The Denver Nuggets have Nikola Jokic, and they know that anytime they play, they have a good chance of winning the game, even if the rest of them kind of suck, because Jokic is just that good. The Lakers used to take the floor with a swagger because they knew that they had a killer in Kobe Bryant. Like that just breeds a certain level of confidence in your team. Everybody knows how good Luka is. That's not the issue. But the question is, like, the Lakers didn't get to feel that swagger as much last year because when they got Luka, he was hurt. He didn't quite get a chance to. It wasn't like they traded for him. He came on and just immediately took everything by storm and did all this. That's not how it worked. He was not fully healthy. Mentally, he was not exactly in the perfect headspace, having been shockingly traded by a team that he did not want to leave. And so you stack all these things, and we've talked about him throughout the year. It wasn't Luka that the Lakers played with. They played with Luka Dončić, and the results were pretty good. In his worst statistical year, basically, Luka still put up some really impressive numbers, but it wasn't the experience. And next year, the Lakers are going to walk into every game with that, what we just saw in the Eurobasket, the swagger and the confidence that it brings them. And oh, by the way, they still have LeBron, who
Well,
has his own cachet in that regard too.
Well, I was going to say before we go to the break, just the difference is you get this level of Luka production, but hopefully more efficiently and to some degree more easily because he's just got more burden sharing. You know, beyond the confidence that a guy like LeBron can provide and all of that other stuff. Just Luka's the number one guy on this team. He is going to be carrying the heaviest burden. But not all heavy burdens are created equally, and the burden, the burden he'll carry for the Lakers.
Talk a little bit more about that though, because I'm comparing it just from what the Lakers saw last year to what.
Sure, no, I understand
your point though about the burden of Eurobasket versus the burden of what he's going to play with the Lakers is an interesting one as well. So let's do that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Drink. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It combines the grape, ginger, and lime flavors of your favorite golf drink into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, it's a hole-in-one for your entire game because you never know when the perfect shot's coming. I've always said the beauty and I think the addictive quality of golf is that every now and then a mediocre at best golfer like yours truly can and has hit a shot that a pro could not have done any better, but you got to be ready and energized for that moment. Golf, it's all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime of 5 Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of that clubhouse go-to drink without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. And now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit this website, the number 5, hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Again, 5hewin.com. This excludes the Masters tournament. It ends October 31st, 2025.
So I think the point you're making, like I said, like I think there is a confidence that you get from showing up with one of those guys, the just most elite players in the NBA. And it's different, you know, it's different even than the Anthony Edwards or, you know, maybe those guys feel the same about it, but like a Donovan Mitchell or Jalen Brunson. Or
I consider Ant at that level, but others may disagree.
Others may not, or Jalen Brunson or Donovan Mitchell or whatever it is. Like those guys are unbelievable and can win games for you, but like it's different. Like when you have Jokic, when you have Luka, when you have prime LeBron, when you have all this stuff. So I just, you know, and the Lakers get that for next year. They can show up every night, not, you know, really confident they have two of those guys because, you know, LeBron's sort of residual status as one of those guys and the inspiration I think players will talk about of just like kind of being like, damn, he's still doing that at, you know, 41, like all this stuff, like that will help them. That is part of the sort of the mental game that you bring in. But I think the point you were making going into the break though, Andy, is a good one because Slovenia needed superhuman Luka in every single game to get as far as they did. I think that, you know, realistically speaking, they were not going to go far so that, or, you know, they were not going to go far if Luka had a bad game at any point, like, you know, a couple in a row and they were done. I think, you know, the Lakers will obviously be built around Luka. They will run through Luka. They are a Luka's team. But like you say, he doesn't have to be this good every single game for the Lakers to be competitive.
Well, if he has to be this good every single game for the Lakers to be competitive, he might as well not bother because they're not going anywhere.
Right.
And you,
actually, it's a good point. He better not need to be that good.
You and I covered the Kobe's 2006 season, the one where he averaged 35 points a game. It was the first year that Phil Jackson returned, the first of the Kwame Smush years. And it was a season that, in retrospect, Kobe, who finished second in MVP vote, fourth. I believe he was fourth that year.
I'm terrible at remembering these years.
I think he was fourth. but in retrospect, he should have won MVP that year. Like, if anybody could propel their team a few rounds just on their play, it would have been Kobe that season, and they got bounced in the first round. Like, there's only so much any one player. For the most part, there are obviously exceptions, and Dirk Nowitzki is remembered for a finals run where he did a lot of heavy lifting that year and in the postseason. But for the most part, there's only so much one guy can do, particularly in a conference as rough as the West. But as we talked about, good health assumed, Luka's not going to have to do that. It's just great for him to, I think in a lot of ways, it is great for him because it's something he takes a lot of pride in, to bear that level of responsibility in this particular setting. But for, I guess, what is his day job, the Lakers, you don't want that, and you won't have to.
That leadership thing is something I hadn't really thought about, because like we all know that the basketball part of it, the Lakers are tailoring everything that they're doing now for Luka, as they should. Like, this is, the people commenting that we get it on the YouTube page, Twitter, whatever. I know there are people out there who are tired of the LeBron experience or whatever it might be. Like, I am not. I am very much still into watching him play and the contributions he makes, and the value that he brings as a team leader and all that stuff. It's Luka's team. That said, LeBron, when you talk about, like, we used to have this conversation with Anthony Davis where, like, it needs to be Anthony Davis's team, at least on the floor. Like, you need, AD to be the team's best player. Luka obviously needs to be the team's best player, but I also think, he's at a level and at an age too where, and the position of where they are with the Lakers in like the next decade of him being on this team, he kind of needs to sort of take over that other stuff. And we got a little bit of a feel for the leadership aspects of Luka and stuff in Eurobasket as he steps back into a team that still will have LeBron. And that dynamic could be a little bit interesting. How Luka, so how he doesn't worry about like bigfooting LeBron James, because he's respectful of LeBron. He respects the talent, he respects the career and all that kind of stuff. And this is a place where LeBron is going to have to do a good job reading the room and giving Luka the sort of the space to become that voice and be that voice in the face in the locker room and in front of the media. It's not so. It was just something that I thought of while you were talking and the stuff that you mentioned with his reaction to how they played, how he did, the officiating, all that stuff.
It'll be interesting too. I mean, LeBron, I think last season did actually a very outward, intentional, and good job of allowing Luka the space to be ingratiated. Remember the first time Luka was introduced in the crypto.com lineup, he gave Luka the final introduction that normally goes to LeBron. That's always for the person on the team with the highest stature. We'll see what I mean, look, we're going to get into this. We're going to see what's going to happen next year with Luka and LeBron on a bunch of different levels. I don't think Luka is as naturally vocal a leader as LeBron is. So on some levels, it's going to be a matter of Luka asserting himself as much as it is LeBron giving him that space to
right.
assert.
And I should say there's a difference between what this will look like in the locker room, on the practice floor, during games, things like that, than what it'll look like in front of the media.
Right.
I should make that distinction.
And the idea of, I think Luka is very much going out of his way, like you said, not to have any appearances of bigfooting LeBron. I think he has genuinely too much respect for that. Luka is more of a killer on the court and more of like a big personality on the court than off it. Like, that doesn't necessarily feel like his style anyway. But I mean, if you really want to dig into this, the organization is doing a lot of the bigfooting for Luka. in making it very clear it's Luka's team. And
Yep.
as we've talked about a lot, not
Which,
necessarily
is exactly how they should be doing it.
right. Yes, it absolutely is. Luka is 26.
Maybe I'm just saying the organization clearing the way in that way is a smart way to do it.
Absolutely. He is the generational superstar he's the first generational superstar, somebody capable of taking a team to the finals as the main guy that the Lakers have had in their prime since Kobe. So obviously that guy is going to take, front and center importance and priority. And while I think LeBron, we've talked about, there is clearly some degree of tension and disconnect between LeBron and the Lakers, LeBron towards the Lakers. I personally think it is more about the contract that the Lakers didn't offer LeBron than the idea and sort of what that represents than the idea of LeBron having to cede territory to LeBron or territory to Luka, that sort of thing. Like, he had done that for Anthony Davis to some degree. He had done it even on smaller levels for Austin. The difference, though, is LeBron never felt deprioritized in the process.
Right.
Now he clearly is. So that's going to be a dynamic moving forward. So is, by the way, the question of how much longer LeBron's actually even going to play in the first place. So we can talk about that coming up next.
So if you're going to listen to other basketball podcasts, which I guess you can when you're done listening to ours, and maybe you make another Locked On podcast your second listen of the day, maybe for your third listen of the day, listen to the Hoop Collective. Andy, maybe that's your thing. And if you were listening recently, you got to hear Brian Windhorst talking about the potential future of LeBron James and exactly how long he thinks LeBron might play, whether LeBron thinks LeBron might play that long. There is tremendous speculation, Andy, as to how long this show is going to continue.
From Brian Windhorst, quote, "Now, as far as LeBron's future, I know there's a lot of speculations. Based on my conversations, I think they being LeBron, Rich Paul, Team LeBron, don't know. As far as I know, he's honestly going year to year. Could this be his last year? Yes. Will it be his last year? I don't know. Does he know right now? Maybe. But my interpretation is that it has not been established. He will see where he's at the end of the year." And obviously, I'm not disputing any of Brian Windhorst's reporting, the people he's spoken with, whatever. He is more sourced than I will ever be, particularly in the world of LeBron. But the way Brian talked about this, it sounded to me at least, and I know others interpreted it this way as well, that LeBron either will announce he's retiring at the beginning of the season, or he's going to table it until the end of the season, off season, whatever, with no real in between, which, there's also, I think, something of an inference that LeBron would need to make up his mind early, make this sort of announcement so the league, and I think too, LeBron, can map out the sort of retirement tour that I think LeBron would both want and obviously deserve.
For sure.
Plus, damn straight the league wants him to have it because
that's right.
So much filthy lucre that can be made from that. And here is where, if I'm correct in my interpretation of Wendy's comments, I think he is mistaken in one aspect. LeBron does not need to make it clear that he's going to retire during media day or during preseason in order for there to be some type of retirement tour if he decided he wanted this year to be his last one. And we know this because, and I think this has been lost over time, like Brian and I, when we were talking about this, he had forgotten until I reminded him, Kobe did not announce formally his retirement until November 30th of the final, like a month into the season. And they still managed to put together a full farewell tour, the quite literal carnival outside Staples Center for the last game. There's I walked past a Ferris wheel to get inside the building.
It was literally a carnival-like atmosphere.
You can do these things that I think the league and LeBron would both want without LeBron committing to something in the next 2.5 weeks.
Right. And I don't know exactly the details, how many people might have been tipped off to this or whatever. There is contextually obviously a difference between Kobe at that stage, where certainly we were not surprised to see the announcement coming. It was pretty clear that he was going to retire. Although
Byron Scott, though, the amount of minutes he played him in the first month before Kobe announced the retirement and they went through a plan, they were not treating it as a given because they were not taking enough care of Kobe to guarantee he'd get through the season. I mean, they were playing him. I mean, I remember asking and even arguing a bit with Byron about this. They were playing Kobe at a level that it would have been impossible for him to get through the season.
Byron had a tendency to just forget how old Kobe was. I mean,
you know what?
I just had that kind of a blind spot there where he just sort of didn't see it.
I asked Byron, I still remember this almost 10 years later, because it's one of the most like honest and open, in a lot of ways vulnerable responses I've ever heard from a coach. Because, Byron and Kobe were extremely close. And when Kobe came into the league, it's famously he rubbed a lot of veterans the wrong way. But Byron was his mentor during his rookie season, Byron's last year in the league. And, I asked Byron when it was announced that Kobe's going to retire, we're going to come up with a plan, get him through the season. I asked him, like, is it hard for you to see Kobe as anything other than that dude in his prime? And, Byron could have been like, of course not. I know who Kobe is. Or he could have like denied that Kobe was slipping at all. But instead, he was just like, yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. He's like, it's really hard. And I think you could tell that it kind of hurt Byron to have to see him any other way.
So my point being that the league could sort of anticipate that being the end and have something together. It was teams had sort of 2 or 3 years to prepare for, for that retirement tour, like to think about what gift we might want to give him the last time he comes in, all that kind of stuff. And he did make a movie to announce that retirement, which you had to remind me of. Like there was a whole animated thing. So there was some. My point
Dear Basketball began as a poem in the Players Tribune. It did not begin as a film. His announcement was Dear Basketball in written form. That was handed. I remember it was handed out to everybody. That's crypto.
No, that's true.
And then it became the Oscar-winning short.
But there's still, my point being, there's still a little bit. At least you're right about that. But there was some lead up there. It's possible people knew, and there was a little bit of tip off. But even if they didn't know explicitly, I think people understood implicitly. Sure. But yeah, you're right. That's a good point. It's why I rely on you to keep chronologies, because I can't. It's different with LeBron. And so, there is likely not to be a massive sustained drop off in his play that indicates the end is near. So I don't know if you'll get that sort of opportunity. If he just decides he's a month and a half into the season and he decides, you know what, I'm not doing this again. This is going to be it, and whatever. That's enough time. Like that, he won't be able to visit every stadium, and he won't be able to see every place, because there are a couple places, the way the schedule works now, where the Lakers will have already visited or whatever it might be. But for the most part, the league could provide that kind of farewell tour. It would create, he would get that and all that stuff. I just don't think it's going to work that way. I think, especially if the Lakers are competitive, and I think they will be. I don't think he's going to change the subject, which is what that would be. I mean, you imagine, the reaction if the Lakers are tooth and nail right behind, Houston for a 3 seed, or Denver, or whoever it is, and they're playing great basketball, and Luka's been awesome and all this other stuff, and LeBron in January announces that he's going to retire. Like, it would be a nightmare in terms of the reaction. Selfish LeBron, undermining the Lakers, hates Luka, like all of these things. Can't stand not having the attention.
Well, to some degree, people are going to say that regardless.
They might, but if he does it if he says at the end of the year, either I'm done, everybody be like, damn, I guess he's gone, or I think next year is going to be my last one. Like, I'm going to think about it, but then everybody goes into the season, you prepare for it, you're not changing the subject. That is the subject. At some point, he's going to have to retire. And so if the Lakers are playing really well, I think he's going to want to be part of that, and he's not going to want to undermine it. I think it will encourage him to keep playing. I think it encourages him to keep playing. And by the way, if the Lakers are really competitive, it also raises the odds that he's on the Lakers again next year.
Well, look, for what it's worth, I don't think this coming season is going to be LeBron's last season. But let's just say he did decide a month and a half into the season, you know what? I'm having a good time. I'm still playing well, but I am feeling it in my body. This is the last one I got in me. And he lets it be known. Obviously, you are correct. That will be a circus, and that will be something tough to navigate. You and I covered Kobe's final season in the league. We were around the team all the time. It was difficult for those guys to navigate getting Kobe through the season in one piece as well as possible. Some games Kobe played, in those games, everything centered around Kobe. The games Kobe didn't play, they were pretending to develop D'Angelo Russell and Julius Randle. And
it should be noted that team sucked.
Well, I was going to say
they're a lot easier.
Right. Well, it was not easy even with low stakes. So with higher stakes, it could be difficult. There is always, though, a chance that it could be, especially if they're playing well, and depending on how LeBron let this be known, there could be a galvanizing effect to it. Like the idea of wanting to send LeBron out on top, like that sort of storybook ending for one of the all-time greats. It could, so it's clear, it could go either way.
And probably would. It probably would go both ways. It would be framed as one last one for the old man, for the guys who, are supportive, and drama queen for everybody who isn't. So you're right. No, that's a good point.
And to be honest, I don't know exactly what it would be or how it could be. Like, again, even with the best intentions, and you and I both think LeBron, if he wants a farewell tour, he's perfectly entitled to it. He's earned it, and I don't blame him at all. I mean, even acknowledging,
like you said, the league will lean on him to have one.
I mean, even acknowledging, LeBron loves him a spotlight. He's allowed to love himself a spotlight, and frankly, Luka loves himself a spotlight. They just have very different personalities in their love of it. But the fact that LeBron loves a spotlight is not a negative. I mean, Kobe loved himself a spotlight, and I'm pretty sure everyone in this audience loved Kobe.
Yep. It will be interesting to see. I agree with you. I think it's a bit of, and Windy, by the way, was not speculating on exactly. The whole point of this was that nobody really knows.
Right.
I don't.
Which I also think is believable, by the way.
Okay, 100%. But I also, the fact that nobody knows indicates to me that if he plays at a level that is similar to what he did last year, and there's no reason to believe that it won't, he's coming back for another one. Not necessarily with the Lakers, not with the Lakers, I don't know. But if he does what he did last year or something in the neighborhood, it's not going to be his last season in the league. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the channel. Leave us questions, leave us comments. Perhaps Andy will open up the mailbag again for Friday's show. So we'll put that out there for you all. Send us the questions you want us to answer. We'll try to get that done on the show. Hey, you have a great Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow.